They had invited a young woman from a humble family to a party to humiliate her in front of everyone. However, everyone was left stunned by the person she arrived with. In a modest corner of a small town, Lucy lived with her mother, Rose. Life had not been easy for them, but that never dampened Lucy's cheerful spirit or the deep love she felt for her mother. Every morning, both worked tirelessly, Rose in her small sewing business, and Lucy selling flowers in the town square. Though they barely earned enough to cover their needs, their unity and optimism helped them face any difficulty. Lucy, always with a smile that brightened those around her, dreamed of a future where her mother wouldn't have to worry about money ever again. One afternoon, as she returned home with her basket of half-sold flowers, Lucy encountered a man dressed elegantly, a clear stranger in town. The man approached her formally and, without many words, handed her a golden envelope. Intrigued, Lucy took the envelope, thanked the man, and watched as he walked away without saying another word. When she opened it, her eyes filled with surprise. It was an invitation to a gala at the mansion of the Montgomery family, one of the richest and most influential in the city. Special guest, it read in golden, elegant letters. The party would be hosted by Isabelle Montgomery, the proud young daughter of businessman Mr. Arthur Montgomery, known for his immense fortune and influence in the region. Lucy had heard of Isabelle but had never imagined she'd receive an invitation from someone like her. Upon arriving home, Lucy showed the invitation to her mother with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Rose, seeing the golden envelope and reading the invitation, frowned. She knew that in the world of the rich, nothing was accidental and that there was probably a hidden intention behind such an honor. With her brow still furrowed, she warned Lucy, "Daughter, I don't trust this invitation. Those people don't just invite anyone, especially someone like us who has nothing to do with their world." But Lucy, thrilled by the chance to attend such a grand event, tried to reassure her mother. "Mom, maybe this is my only chance to see what a party like that is like. Don't worry, I know how to take care of myself. Besides, there's nothing wrong with dreaming a little, right?" Rose sighed, resigned, but her intuition told her something was off. Even so, she didn't want to dampen her daughter's enthusiasm and agreed to help her get ready. Lucy spent the next few days with a smile on her face, imagining what that night would be like. In her mind, she saw herself surrounded by elegant people, enjoying an atmosphere of luxury and beauty. Though she knew she didn't belong in that world, her heart told her that, at least for one night, she deserved to experience something different, a glimpse into the life of the wealthy. On the day of the party, Rose helped Lucy choose her best dress, a simple one that highlighted her natural beauty. It was a light blue dress, a bit worn, but one that Lucy had kept lovingly for a special occasion. "I don't have fancy jewelry, but this necklace you gave me when I was a child has always been my good luck charm," she said to her mother as she fastened it around her neck. Rose looked at her with tenderness and a hint of worry in her eyes. "Remember, daughter, you're special just the way you are. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Moved by her mother's words, Lucy promised she would never be ashamed of who she was. Ready, with her hair down and an expression of nervous excitement, Lucy said goodbye to her mother and left for the Montgomery mansion. As she approached, her eyes widened in amazement at the lights, the manicured gardens, and the luxury radiating from the windows. Everything seemed like something out of a fairy tale, a place far from the humble world in which she had grown up. When she crossed the mansion's doors, she felt the intensity of the gazes on her, some surprised, others disapproving. The guests, dressed in elegant suits and dazzling jewelry, watched her with curiosity, probably wondering how someone so simple had managed to secure an invitation to such an exclusive event. As she walked through the hall, still unaware that the invitation was nothing more than a trap to ridicule her, Lucy kept her head held high, remembering her mother's words. But the real test was just about to begin, and she, innocent and unaware of Isabelle and her friend's true intentions, was about to face a night that would change her life forever. Lucy's excitement was evident in every step she took. When she returned home after seeing the splendor of the Montgomery mansion, she knew that night would be special and would mark her life in one way or another. As soon as she crossed the door, she ran to her mother to tell her everything about the impressive entrance, the lights, and the gardens she had glimpsed from outside. Rose, while sharing her daughter's enthusiasm, couldn't shake her concern. She knew that world was filled with people who looked down on those without money or a notable family name. However, seeing Lucy's delight, she chose not to say anything that might ruin her joy. Lucy had made her decision, and Rose, as her mother, could only support her and wish her the best. "Well, daughter," Rose said with a somewhat forced smile, "if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Today, we'll fix up that dress and make sure you look beautiful." Though the dress was simple and a bit old, both put all their effort into adding a special touch, hand-stitching small details and adjusting some parts so that it fit perfectly. The next day, as the event approached, Lucy spent her time imagining what the party would be like. In her mind, she saw people laughing, tables filled with elegant food, and the sound of music filling the hall. She knew everyone would be dressed luxuriously and extravagantly, and though she didn't have a gown like that, she was determined not to let it make her feel out of place. Suddenly, as they were sewing the dress together, Rose spoke in a serious tone that made Lucy stop daydreaming for a moment. "Daughter, I want you to remember something important. No matter what happens there, you are special. You don't need anything from them to know your worth. Promise me, no matter what, you won't let them make you feel less." Surprised by her mother's tone, Lucy nodded with a smile. "I promise, Mom. I'll go and enjoy the party, but I'll always remember who I am and where I come from." Still, a small doubt lingered in her heart, making her question if she was truly ready to face the world she had only ever seen from afar. Meanwhile, at the Montgomery mansion, Isabelle and her friends were preparing with entirely different intentions. They were excited, not for the party itself, but for the plan they had crafted against Lucy. To them, the humble young woman from the village was just a form of entertainment. They wanted to mock her lack of elegance and her humble origins, thinking it would be fun to humiliate her in front of everyone. One of Isabelle's friends, Laura, asked, "What if Lucy figures out what we're planning and decides not to come?" Isabelle, with a malicious smile, replied, "Don't worry, Laura. People like her don't turn down an opportunity like this. She'll come, and when she does, we'll make sure she regrets ever accepting the invitation." In Lucy's modest home, time was passing quickly as they finished the final touches on her outfit. When the dress was ready, both of them looked at it with pride. It was simple, but full of unique details, and Rose had put so much effort into each stitch that Lucy felt as if it were a new and special dress. "I wish your father could see you," Rose murmured softly. Though the memory of her father was painful, Rose's words made Lucy feel even stronger. She knew her mother wanted the best for her, and that even though her father wasn't present, his love was always with her. When the day of the party finally arrived, Lucy woke up early to make sure everything was in order. Her excitement kept her alert, and though she didn't admit it, she also felt nervous. She knew the party would be a different world, full of luxuries she had never seen up close. In the afternoon, Rose helped Lucy get ready, carefully styling her hair and applying a little makeup to highlight her natural beauty. "You don't need anything else, my daughter. Your smile and who you are make you special," Rose said tenderly. Before Lucy left, her mother stopped her to give one last piece of advice. "Remember, daughter, this party doesn't define who you are. No matter what happens, I want you to enjoy yourself, learn from the experience, and if anyone tries to make you feel less, just smile and move on." With her mother's words etched in her heart, Lucy said goodbye and set off for the mansion. She didn't know what awaited her, but she was determined to enjoy every moment, remembering that, regardless of the luxury around her, she had something that no one could take away, her dignity and her heart. As she approached the entrance to the mansion, her mind filled with mixed thoughts and emotions. She wanted to be accepted and to show that, though she came from a humble place, she was as worthy as anyone else. That night, Lucy was ready to face whatever awaited her, or so she thought. Upon arriving at the Montgomery mansion, Lucy paused to admire the place. The air was filled with the sweet aroma of fresh flowers, and lights shone in every corner, making the mansion look like a palace from a dream. Seeing all the opulence, part of her felt small and out of place, but she reminded herself of her mother's words, that this party didn't define who she was. With a mix of nerves and excitement, she crossed the door, and instantly, all eyes turned toward her. The guests, dressed in elegant and luxurious clothing, looked at her with curiosity and, some, with disapproval. They knew that Lucy didn't belong in that elite circle, and their penetrating stares and murmurs seemed to emphasize that reality. But Lucy, feeling the weight of their gazes, made an effort to keep her head held high and smile confidently. While she walked through the hall, looking for a corner where she might feel a bit more at ease, she saw Isabelle, the hostess of the party, surrounded by a group of friends. They were all dressed in costly clothes and wearing jewelry that sparkled under the mansion lights. When Isabelle noticed Lucy's arrival, her lips curved into a malicious smile, and she murmured something to her friends, who discreetly laughed as they looked at Lucy with a mix of mockery and superiority. Despite the discomfort she felt, Lucy continued exploring the hall, marveling at the decor and atmosphere. It was an entirely new experience for her, and despite the hostile looks, she wanted to make the most of the moment to learn and discover new things. While Lucy was trying not to pay attention to the murmurs, a man with a friendly smile and a confident presence appeared before her. He was undoubtedly someone out of the ordinary in the village. "Good evening," he said softly. "My name is Richard, and you are?" "I'm Lucy," she responded, feeling her cheeks blush. Richard was an attractive man with dark eyes and a kind expression, something she rarely encountered at such events. Surprised by the attention he gave her, she wondered why someone like him would want to talk to her. "Lucy, how are you finding the party?" Richard asked, looking at her with genuine interest. "Oh, it's impressive," Lucy replied, trying to find the right words. "I've never seen anything like it, everything is so different." Richard smiled, noticing the sincerity in her eyes. "Well, luxuries can sometimes be deceiving. Not everything that shines is valuable," he remarked enigmatically. His words made Lucy feel a bit more at ease. For the first time that night, someone seemed to understand her confusion. As they spoke, a few guests looked at them from the corners of their eyes, surprised by the attention Richard was paying to a girl with such a humble appearance. Noticing this, Isabelle felt a sting of jealousy. She couldn't bear that someone like Richard, one of the most important guests that night, was giving Lucy so much attention. Hiding her irritation, Isabelle approached them with a fake smile. "Richard, I see you've met our special guest," she said, emphasizing the word special with a sarcastic tone that made Lucy's cheeks redden. Richard, maintaining his friendly expression, nodded. "Yes, Isabelle. Lucy is delightful," he replied, making it clear that Isabelle's attempt at humiliation didn't affect him. "It's refreshing to meet someone with such sincerity." Isabelle couldn't hide her surprise at Richard's response. Her friends, watching from a distance, exchanged looks of disbelief. The situation was not going as planned, which only made Isabelle feel more irritated. Determined to change the course of the conversation, she gestured with her hand, indicating that the music was about to start. "Richard, would you join me in officially welcoming our guests?" she asked in a seductive tone, completely ignoring Lucy. But Richard, instead of following her, looked at Lucy and courteously offered his arm. Lucy, would you like to join me for a walk in the garden before the music starts? It's a beautiful place, he said, completely disregarding Isabelle's request. Surprised by Richard's gesture, Lucy shyly nodded and took his arm. As they walked toward the exit, she felt all eyes were on them. The confusion among the guests was evident. They couldn't understand why Richard, a well-known and respected man, preferred Lucy's company over Isabelle's. Once in the garden, Richard let out a soft laugh as he saw the look of wonder on Lucy's face. I know this may seem strange, but I want you to know that you have something special. Don't let anyone here intimidate you, he said sincerely, giving her a bit of comfort. Lucy looked at him, still unable to understand why someone like him would spend time with her. I'm not used to places like this, she admitted with a shy smile. I thought I would be welcome, but now I realize that maybe it wasn't such a good idea to come. On the contrary, Richard replied, it was an excellent idea. You bring something different to this place. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise. As they strolled through the garden, Lucy began to feel more at ease. Although she knew that inside the hall, people were looking at her with disapproval, Richard's words gave her strength and reminded her that her value didn't depend on others' acceptance. But the night was just beginning, and Isabelle's plan had yet to unfold. As Richard and Lucy continued their conversation in the garden, inside the mansion, Isabelle's gaze reflected determination and contempt. The humiliation of Lucy was just about to start. After their walk, Richard and Lucy returned to the hall, and to everyone's surprise, he continued talking to her as if they were old friends. Every word from Richard made Lucy feel less uncomfortable and more confident, something that didn't go unnoticed by the other guests, especially Isabelle, who couldn't contain her frustration. With a forced smile, Isabelle approached them again, determined to regain Richard's attention. Richard, dear, I'm surprised you haven't had time to greet our other guests, she commented, casting a disdainful glance at Lucy. I'm sure they'd appreciate it as well. But Richard, undeterred, responded calmly, further frustrating Isabelle. Thank you for the invitation, Isabelle, but right now I'm really enjoying Lucy's company, he said with a genuine smile as he handed Lucy a glass of wine. Lucy, feeling as if she were in a dream, stood amidst elegant people and received the attention of such a kind and distinguished man like Richard, something she had never imagined. As she took the glass, she remembered her mother's words and tried to maintain her composure, though she felt a wave of nerves. She didn't want her humble nature to be a target for ridicule, and although Richard made her feel safe, the disdainful looks from the others still weighed on her. The situation grew increasingly uncomfortable for Isabelle, who was struggling to mask her anger. With one last forced smile, she left Richard and Lucy's side, but not without murmuring something to her friends, who watched the scene with a mix of disbelief and mockery. Where do you think this girl came from? One of Isabelle's friends whispered, trying to stifle a laugh. Isabelle, with a look of contempt, replied in a low voice, I don't know, but it's clear she doesn't belong here. You'll see, tonight, we're going to remind her of her place. Isabelle's friends chuckled quietly as they watched her walk toward the center of the hall with a malicious plan in mind. Meanwhile, Richard continued talking to Lucy, genuinely interested in getting to know her better. He asked her about her family and the small village where she lived, and Lucy, surprised by his genuine interest, answered honestly, telling him about her mother, Rose, and the daily struggles they faced to make ends meet. She spoke of her simple life with pride, without hiding or embellishing the details. That's admirable, Richard said after listening to her, a look of respect on his face. Your strength and the way you speak about your mother show that you're a person with values, someone authentic. It's rare to find that in places like this. Richard's words filled Lucy with happiness and gratitude. Although she felt out of place, his words reminded her that her value wasn't in her appearance or her resources, but in who she truly was. She was about to respond when, suddenly, the music stopped, and all the lights in the hall focused on the center, where Isabelle was preparing to make an announcement. "My dear friends," Isabelle began, raising a glass in a toast, "tonight we are here to celebrate friendship, elegance, and, above all, the values that unite us as people of good standing." Her voice was melodic and captivating, but there was an undertone of arrogance and superiority in every word that echoed through the hall. Richard and Lucy exchanged a glance, both aware of Isabelle's theatrical performance. Lucy felt a slight chill as she realized her name might soon slip from Isabelle's lips. She knew that Isabelle and her friends didn't want her there, and the sense of danger grew with each word from the hostess. Isabelle continued, pausing to look directly at Lucy. "And since tonight is such a special occasion, I'd like to invite our dear Lucy to join us in a toast. After all, this is her first gala," she said with a tone that mixed false courtesy and evident mockery. Some of the guests glanced at each other, sensing the malicious intent behind her words. Lucy's heart began to pound. She could feel everyone's eyes on her, and although she tried to remain calm, the weight of the situation started to affect her. However, before she could say anything, Richard stepped forward and raised his glass. "That's right," Richard said loudly, addressing the guests with a confident smile. "It's an honor to have someone like Lucy here with us tonight. Her presence reminds us that a person's value is not in what they wear or in the family name they bear, but in their essence and authenticity. Let's toast to her and to all those, like Lucy, who teach us what really matters." An uncomfortable silence filled the hall as the guests, unsettled, didn't quite know how to react. Some timidly raised their glasses, while others looked at Isabelle, searching for some cue on how to proceed. Isabelle's smile disappeared, and her friends looked at her with nervousness, clearly surprised by Richard's unexpected defense of Lucy. Lucy, moved and grateful, looked at Richard, astonished. She had never imagined that someone like him would defend her in such a way, especially in front of everyone. She felt that her dignity, nearly destroyed by Isabelle's malice, had been restored with just a few words from Richard. Although she was still nervous, something within her began to strengthen. The night was far from over, and Lucy knew that Isabelle's glare still held more intentions. But now, she felt she wasn't alone. Richard had shown her that, no matter what others said or thought, she deserved to be there just as much as anyone else. With that renewed sense of confidence, she decided to stay and face whatever came next. After the unexpected toast Richard made in Lucy's honor, the atmosphere in the hall grew tense, filled with discreet glances exchanged among the guests. Some felt uncomfortable with the situation, while others, particularly Isabelle's circle of friends, seemed even more determined to carry out their plan to ridicule Lucy. Richard, for his part, continued to accompany Lucy, ensuring that she felt comfortable. But the calm he had created with his speech would not last long. Silently, Isabelle approached her friends and subtly gestured for them to initiate their plan. Despite Richard's intervention, Isabelle was not willing to let a humble young woman ruin her night. Her pride prevented her from accepting that someone like Lucy could stand out, especially with the support of someone as important as Richard. In her mind, Lucy was nothing more than an intruder in her world of luxury, and she was determined to make her feel that she didn't belong. Laura, one of Isabelle's friends, approached Lucy with a forced smile. "Lucy, dear, it's such a pleasure to see you here," she said, her voice carrying a tone of insincere friendliness. "Since it's your first time at an event like this, why don't you join us so you can get to know everyone better?" Lucy hesitated for a moment, aware that these women's intentions were far from genuine. But when she saw Richard nodding with a reassuring smile, she decided to accept the invitation, thinking she might avoid conflict and perhaps show them she could fit in anywhere. Yet as soon as she joined Isabelle's friends, the first veiled insults began. "Oh, Lucy, your dress is so unique," one of them remarked, examining the worn fabric. "It's amazing how you can wear something so simple with so much confidence." "Yes, and the color suits you quite well, considering how modest it is," another added, stifling a laugh. Lucy, though she understood their mocking tone, made an effort to remain calm and responded by politely thanking them for the compliments. Isabelle, who had been watching from a few steps away, approached with a couple of glasses in her hands. "Ladies, let's toast to our new friend Lucy," Isabelle said, offering one of the glasses to Lucy with a cold smile. "I'm sure this will be an unforgettable night for her." Lucy cautiously accepted the glass, thanking Isabelle. She knew that Isabelle's intentions weren't good, but she chose not to let herself be provoked. With elegance, she raised the glass and joined the others in the toast, while Isabelle's friends exchanged knowing glances. At that moment, one of Isabelle's friends accidentally spilled her drink on Lucy's dress, staining the delicate fabric with dark red wine. "Oh, Lucy, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her voice barely containing a malicious chuckle. "I didn't mean to ruin your dress. I hope it's not the only one you have." Lucy's face turned red with a mix of embarrassment and anger. She could see the satisfaction in the faces of Isabelle's friends, who were clearly enjoying the situation. Taking a deep breath, she remembered her mother's advice and, with a forced smile, replied, "Don't worry, it's really no big deal." Despite her efforts to act with dignity, the pain of being humiliated in front of everyone was evident in her eyes. Richard, who had been observing the incident from across the hall, quickly approached. Noticing the stain on Lucy's dress and the mocking smiles of Isabelle's group, he immediately understood what had happened. Without hesitation, he took a napkin and offered it to Lucy with a compassionate look. "Don't worry, Lucy. A dress can get stained, but true elegance can't be lost," he said loudly, looking firmly at Isabelle's friends, who quickly looked away, uncomfortable. With that simple gesture in his words, Richard restored Lucy's confidence, which she felt had been slipping away. Feeling both embarrassed and grateful, Lucy gave him a shy smile. The glances from the other guests, who had watched the incident, now seemed less judgmental. Rather than seeing her as an intruder, some began to respect the dignity with which she handled the situation. Isabelle, realizing her plan to ridicule Lucy had backfired, clenched her fists in silent anger. She couldn't believe that Richard continued to defend Lucy, a girl who, in her eyes, had no place in her world. With a look of restrained rage, she leaned toward her friends and whispered something only they could hear. "This isn't over," she said in a low voice. "If Richard insists on making her look good, we'll make sure this night is as uncomfortable as possible for her." While Isabelle's friends retreated to prepare their next move, Richard continued to stay by Lucy's side, talking with her as if nothing had happened. Amid the false laughter and sarcastic comments from Isabelle's friends, Lucy found a moment of peace in Richard's company. He made her feel valued and respected, despite the others' efforts to make her feel small. Seeing that some guests were still watching with interest, Richard decided to make a statement that would seal his support for Lucy. He took her hand and led her to walk among the other guests, introducing her with pride. He spoke of her strength and kindness, making it clear that she deserved respect. Isabelle's friends watched in disbelief as Lucy became the center of attention, a sight they couldn't tolerate. Meanwhile, Isabelle stood in a corner of the hall, her frustration boiling as she saw her plans unravel. The evening continued, and each attempt by Isabelle and her friends to humiliate Lucy seemed to backfire, only serving to highlight Lucy's dignity and Richard's genuine interest in her. The murmurs grew louder among the guests, some of whom were surprised and confused by Richard's attention to a girl who clearly didn't belong in their social circle. At one point, as the music softened in preparation for a toast in honor of the guests, Richard stepped into the center of the hall with his glass raised, catching everyone's attention. "If I may, I'd like to make a statement," he began, his voice firm and his expression composed. Everyone, including Isabelle and her friends, fell silent, waiting to hear what Richard had to say. Tonight, I want to talk about something I've rediscovered, thanks to a very special person I met recently," he said, looking directly at Lucy. She, taken aback and nervous, felt her face blush as she became the center of attention. In this world filled with luxury and appearances, we often forget the importance of authenticity and kindness, qualities that can't be bought and are far more valuable than any fortune. Richard's words echoed through the hall, and many of the guests exchanged glances, unsure of how to react. Isabelle's friends whispered among themselves, clearly uncomfortable. Lucy, for her part, was stunned and deeply moved. She had never imagined that someone would speak of her this way, let alone in front of such an intimidating crowd. "Tonight, I want to toast to Lucy," Richard continued, raising his glass. "For her simplicity, her strength, and for reminding us all that a person's worth isn't in their clothes or their family name, but in their essence and their love for others." For a brief moment, silence filled the hall. Richard's declaration was so unexpected that some guests didn't know how to respond. A few, moved by his words, timidly raised their glasses, following Richard's gesture, while others watched in silence, unsure of what to say. Isabelle, meanwhile, couldn't hide her anger. Her plan to humiliate Lucy seemed to be turning against her, and now it was she who felt embarrassed. Trying to hide her frustration, she forced a smile and joined the toast, but her eyes betrayed her rage. Lucy, overwhelmed and moved, raised her glass, her heart pounding. Richard's words had been like a bomb, a reminder that her value didn't depend on others' approval. With a trembling voice, she responded to the toast, "Thank you, Richard, and thank you to everyone for allowing me to be here tonight. Although I come from a very different place, I've learned that what's important is the respect and kindness we can show one another. So, thank you for reminding me of that." The toast ended, and slowly, the guests resumed their conversations. But the tension in the air was unmistakable. Many now looked at Lucy with a new respect and curiosity, while Isabelle and her friends struggled to conceal their anger. Determined to regain control, Isabelle approached Richard with a forced smile. "Richard, it seems you've become quite attached to our special guest," she remarked sarcastically. "I wasn't aware you had such an appreciation for simplicity." Not letting her sarcasm get to him, Richard replied calmly, "Isabelle, sometimes the simplest things are the most valuable. It's easy to get lost in superficial shine and forget what really matters." With that, he made it clear that he wasn't willing to play Isabelle's game or let her words affect Lucy. Frustrated and humiliated, Isabelle clenched her teeth and walked away, unable to accept that Richard was openly defying her in front of everyone.